But Iranian dissidents aren't interested in any arrangement that would perpetuate the Islamic Republic, with or without a new coat of paint. In an address today to the Iranian people, Iran's exiled crown prince, Reza Pahlavi, called on them to remain patient and, quote, await the decisive moment to take down the Islamic Republic.
تأکید کردم که این ما ملت ایران هستیم که باید ضربه نهایی را به رژیم ضعیف شده وارد و آن را سرنگون کنیم.
All right, what he just said there, be patient, wait for the moment, it will happen, a decisive moment. It all sounds nice, but revolutions require more than revolutionary spirit. They require organization, communications, transportation, and guns, lots and lots of guns. So how are the Iranian people who have been brutally murdered and repressed by their own government expected to rise up and tear it down? A short time ago, I spoke with the Crown Prince's Chief of Staff, Khansarinia, who is traveling with the Prince in Paris today. Cameron, the Crown Prince said in his address to Iranians today that they are the ones who must rise up now and bring this regime down. How are they supposed to do that? NewsNation's reporting today that Iranian leaders have ordered executions be sped up. Reports they're executing teenagers 2 a day just for protesting.
Elizabeth, it's very good to be back with you. Thank you for having me. The Crown Prince has been clear in saying that the Iranians will have to rise up and take their country back at the right moment. He said that in every message since the beginning of this conflict, since the United States and the leadership of President Trump and the Israelis eliminated Ali Khamenei, Iran's 30-year dictator, and so many other leaders of this criminal regime. He has reiterated time and time again that the destiny of Iran, its fate, and its future political direction is ultimately in the hands of the Iranian people, and that he will issue a further and final call for Iranians to rise up and take back their country after 47 years of being occupied by this regime.
And
but
you think they'll do that?
Right time. They will. The Iranian people have proven that they're not only wanting their freedom and liberation, but they're willing to fight and they're willing to die for it. On January 8th and 9th of this year, when the Crown Prince called them to come to the streets, the Islamic Republic turned off the internet and 45,000 brave Iranians, 45,000, I think that number is so big it's almost difficult for us to fathom what that means, gave their lives for liberation, to reclaim their country from this Islamist dictatorship that has held the country hostage for so long. So Iranians aren't simply sitting on the sideline. They're not asking for their liberty to be handed to them. They're willing to fight for it. They're willing to die for it. And at the right time, they will go back to the streets.
President Trump and his administration are right now negotiating with the Ayatollah's son. You called him a part of a criminal regime, but at this point, this is who the Trump administration is dealing with and may strike a deal with that would leave this regime in place.
Well, two things. First of all, I think it's very unlikely that there will be a deal made with this regime that is serving American national interest, American security interest, American economic interest. Look, this Islamic Republic and the leaders who are now negotiating with the United States are the same people who have been chanting death to America for 47 years, are the same people who have been killing American soldiers across the Middle East, who have been taking Americans hostage, who have been closing the Strait of Hormuz, who have been imposing gas price terrorism on the people of the United States at the pump every single day. They haven't just woken up and decided to be friends of the United States. It's true that they're incredibly weak.
It's the same regime.
It's the same regime, and it's driven by the same hateful terrorist ideology that has driven this regime for 47 years. That's one. And two, even if they are able to get to some sort of understanding, the people of Iran will not accept the remnants of the Islamic Republic. They won't accept Khamenei Jr. and Ghalibaf and these people who have terrorized them, held them hostage for so long.
Cameron, I want to ask you about President Trump's threats to wipe the Iranian civilization off the face of this earth. The White House press secretary said this afternoon that Trump's threats to completely destroy Iran were not empty threats, and that the Pentagon had a target list ready to go, and that the president was willing to give the go-ahead. I want your reaction to that kind of threat. This is the country that you and the Crown Prince are hoping to return to and hopefully lead one day?
Well, I think that it's important to focus more on the president's actions than on his words.
But
He killed
that
Ali
language
Khamenei,
to wipe
dictator
the Iran off the
people.
face of the earth, the Iranian civilization off the face of the earth, you don't find that objectionable?
I don't think that's what the president meant. I don't think that the president meant that he would wipe Iranian civilization off the face of the earth. I think he meant that he would wipe this Islamic regime off the face of the earth. And I very much hope that he'll do so, because it's a regime that is actually at war with Iranian civilization. If there's anything at all that has attempted to wipe Iranian civilization off the face of the earth, it's this very Islamic Republic. It's Mr. Khamenei, who for 30 years, Khomeini before him and Khamenei Jr. now, and their entire cabal of criminals and thugs, who are not only waging war on the West, they're waging war on Iran itself.
I'm quoting President Trump himself when he said the Iranian civilization will cease to exist, and that all the bridges and all the power plants were targets to be destroyed. That would wipe out much of the civilian infrastructure, if not all of it, if we are to believe those threats.
Look, as the president is in the midst of negotiations, trying to force this regime to the table. And so the president says things like that. As I said, I think it's more important to focus on his actions. Throughout this military campaign, you will see very clearly that the U.S. armed forces took extreme care to avoid Iranian civilian casualties. The president himself, not only in his actions, but even in his words, has spoken very eloquently and very positively about the people of Iran, about how Iran used to be a great country, how Iran used to be a free and prosperous country. So I think the president very clearly understands the distinction between this regime and the Iranian people, and in his actions, in the directions he's given to the U.S. armed forces, has proven that.
Cameron, Khansarinia, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.